we found that the highest performing individuals and teams, they all have a black belt skill set. They're all really good at what they do, but they keep a white belt mindset. They want to continue to learn and evolve. And a phrase that we've coined is learning velocity. And what is learning velocity? To us, learning velocity is how do we take all of this information that we're getting? Because information's abundant right now. It's like the gold rush of information. We're getting the information thrown at us in all different directions. How do we take this gold rush of information, sift through it, find the golden nuggets that apply to us, dive a little deeper, and then actually apply what we're learning? Because our learning velocity has to be greater than the rate of change. And what we found is people that have a white belt mindset accompanied by a high learning velocity, that they're learning deeply on things and applying the things that we learn, are the ones that are the highest performers.
So one thing that we've seen is change is inevitable, but growth is optional. Mm-hmm. So one of the things to look is where have companies experienced pain because they had a low learning velocity. So back in 1996, the company Kodak, many of you may remember them, the photography company, they did not embrace the digital transformation. They knew about it. They knew that we were going to go away from those cameras. You remember the ones that you'd wind up and develop? That they knew we were going to be shifting in an opportunity to the digital world, but their investors didn't take the leap. Their investors weren't ready to make that change. Their learning velocity wasn't there. So you have a company that has 145,000 employees, one of the top 5 brands across the country in 1996, and by 2012 is bankrupt. And what's the difference between them and the other companies that took off was their learning velocity did not match the rate of change that you just talked about. And so when you think about that, when you take talent and you take all these components to what drives a winning team, one of the factors that determines if we're going to win or lose is our learning velocity greater than our opponent? Is it greater than the rate of change outside? And so you had just one heck of a stretch of consistent winning, 70-game win streak in a row at Kimberly High School on your football team. What did you notice when it comes to learning velocity and how to keep a team like that on the cutting edge? And maybe what got in the way of having an incredible learning velocity?
Yeah, that's one thing I'm really proud of our entire staff, our program, our athletes, is that they were always looking for ways to get better. Because what holds people back a lot of times from having a white belt mindset or having a great learning velocity can be entitlement, thinking that you got it all figured out, that, you're on top of the world. There's a lot of people that say it's a lot harder to stay on the top than it is to get there because things like entitlement, things like complacency fit in. Well, this is the way we've always done it, so it's going to continue to work that way. Those are the things that oftentimes get in the way, and I'm really proud of how our program rose above those things and continued to push each other. Whether it was a season where we didn't win a state championship or the 5 consecutive years that we did, the conversations were very similar. What do we need to do to evolve? And we kept some core principles. There's no doubt about it, but we also really evolved and had a great learning velocity to stay on the cutting edge of things, which is really important. And the idea, too, is not just going out to all these clinics and learning, but then sifting through it, finding what worked for us, and then actually implementing it, having the courage to then make that change and implement what we learned.
I think that's the key, right? Is when it comes to learning, level 1 is consumption, absorbing. I can remember back in COVID, I was on a one-on-one call with a professional baseball coach who is just one of the hungriest coaches that I've ever worked with. And I get on the call and I said, how's it going? Spring training was delayed. I said, how are you using your time these days? And he's like, I'm taking advantage of every moment. I said, I'm listening to 5 or 6 podcasts every single day. And he was proud of this, of the grind that he was doing. But my question was, well, how much of that are you applying? What is actually helping you or your team get better from all of that? And I think he knew the answer. It was a lot of consumption, very little comprehension, and almost no analysis and application. And so when we talk about learning at the deepest level, it's how do you consume, but then how do you apply it to actually help you get better? And so when we look at how can you apply your learning velocity, it's asking the question, what can we do today to learn better and faster than the people next to us, to upgrade our systems, to continue to be on the cutting edge tomorrow.